down to
Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
Oh, they're going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still start trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry!
Well, from the Garden of England, we head to Virginia for the second round of the Porsche Cup Challenge Europe classification at the Virginia International Raceway. Warm welcome to you all tonight, live and direct on the JP Broadcasting Network. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, and once again, I'm joined in the virtual commentary box overlooking this 5.22 kilometre circuit by Dan Pepples. Dan, good evening, buddy. How are you?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Alex. Yeah, I'm excited for this one. Of course, last week we got a taste of what these drivers have installed for us for the championship, and of course this track. If there's one track really that promotes racing, it's this one.
Definitely. This circuit has been in circulation for just over 65 years. It was reopened back in 2000. And it is going to provide one hell of an opportunity for some of the drivers that battled through the opening two races of the season last week at Brands Hatch, where we had two different winners from two different races in respective classes. So, firstly, let's have a look at the standings coming into this, and it is 1 point separating Niklas Nolde, who took the sprint race victory at Brands Hatch last time out last week. He is ahead of the current reigning overall defending champion. It's Hammer time, of course. It's Mr. Philip Hammer. Aidan Young not here this week. Well, not here on the Europe side. He was already in action earlier on this week on Thursday. But he is currently third in the championship, having taken the maximum points haul in the 30-minute feature race. Samuel Sprouse showed good consistency over the course of the two Brands Hatch races and is fourth, ahead of Daniel Thomas. Then it's Juri Steinmetz, Misha Berger, Stefan Heineken, Spencer Marsh, Emil Koopmans, who round out the top 10, covered by 23 points. Jaime Fierro, Django Val, Danny Hugendorn, Igor Koz, Noah Vents, Marvin Strael, Vince Baters and Alexander Redhead round out the top 18 in the overall classification. Then also looking a little bit further down the order, you've got the likes of Torsten Seifert, who was in the trenches, in the wars and in the wall at Brands Hatch, ahead of Steven Eckenrode, Mark de Bruyn, Bjorn Ritter, Ewan Bremner, Monik Heister, and we've got the likes of Glenn Humberstone, Alexander Vilfert, Mikey Hovanek and Lee Holmes rounding out the top 28. So we go to the Pro Championship standings, and at the moment as things stand, it is still as we had in the overall standings. It's Nolde from Hammer from Young, separated by just 3 points. A further 5 back is Samuel Sproul with Daniel Thomas, Juri Steinmetz, Misha Berger, Emil Koopmans, Django Val and Danny Hugendorn rounding out the top 10. And then you can see a lot of the usual suspects, such as Igor Koz, who did have a good opportunity at a race victory last week. Unfortunately, had to finish a little bit further back, especially after a difficult second race at Brands Hatch. Likes of Marvin Strael, Vince Baters, Torsten Seifert, Mikey Hovanek will look to move up the order here tonight at VIR. And in the AM classification, well, Stefan Heineken and Spencer Marsh with Jaime Fierro rounding out the top 3, covered by just 9 points coming into this round. No events, Alexander Redhead, Steven Eckenrode, Mark de Bruyn, Bjorn Ritter, Ewan Bremner and Monik Heister rounding out the top 10. Glenn Humberstone, Alexander Vilfert, Niall Killen, Kenny Eckert, Holger Meifert also had dramas last time at Brands Hatch. And then you have the likes of Byron DeBello and Alistair Hatcher rounding at the 17 drivers that have also scored points over the course of this season. And once again, we have to say a big thank you to our partners at Blackout Electrical Services, based in Brisbane in Australia, serving the South Queensland area. They're electricians specialising in both commercial and industrial renovations and fit-outs, power systems analysis and switchboard replacements. So folks, we are in the latter stages of the free practice session. And at the moment, it's Vince Peters in the number 45 that is leading the way, just by over 0.6 of a second ahead of Patrick Hinkston. The likes of Daniel Thomas, who was also in the trenches last time, along with Igor Koz, who, Dan, you and I caught doing a bit of Gymkhana yeet walling here at Virginia. I mean, this is a circuit that's really going to test the drivers, and you can see how close it is to try and get into that pit lane, isn't it?
Well, Igor Koz took an interesting line there. That was through, of course, the old pit lane. On the back stretch, of course, an interesting line. Of course, practice has come to an end, so we will now move into qualifying, and well, it's all going to count here, because I can tell you one thing: that first sector here at Virginia is almost going to be impossible to overtake at with all the twisting corners.
Yeah, 15-minute open qualifying session now underway for round 2 of the season. 4 laps can be covered by the drivers, and hopefully we'll get an understanding. We'll try and ride on board with one of the drivers to give you a full taste of this particular circuit as the drivers now make their way out onto the circuit. You know what? Let's stay on board with Lee Holmes. We'll actually give you an outlap understanding of this circuit. So into the horseshoe here at turn number 1. And then it's going to be a slight acceleration zone into a left kink here at 2. Then into a 90 left here at NASCAR Bend, which is turn 3. Before we go into left hook, which is turn 4A. Then goes into a right-hander. Into turn 4B. Then you've got turns 5A and B. So this is the part where the drivers can really pick up speed in these Porsche 992 Carrera Cup cars. And then it's all the way through Snake. Then down into turn 7, and then you get the elevation changes starting to come here. Curbing is going to be an issue, as will be track limits. And then it will be into a next left-hander here at South Bend before putting the power down up the hill into Oak Tree at turns 11 and 12 before they go onto a 910-metre back straight. And there is the old pit lane on the left-hand side, which we saw Igor Koz just going through. But this is going to be where the most of the overtaking is going to take place. Could we see 3 wide here? I very much think so, as they now go over the crest. And then it's a little bit down into the dip here, into turn number 13 and 14. This is the roller coaster section of the track, so named because of the fact it has a little bit of an upward slant and then a downward dip into turns 14, now into 15. Then into 16A and 16B, heading into the hog pen. For turn number 17 is the final corner. Over the crest now, and there is the pit lane on the right-hand side, and that is a lap here at VIR, aka Virginia International Raceway. So it just goes to show that we are now getting some lap times coming in. Emil Gubmans in the 911. Fastest of anybody with a 1 minute 52.685. Lee Holmes is in second. There is the 911. Hopefully he's not going to be missing any apexes with that team name there, but he's already up into sector number 1, but it looks like someone is going a little bit faster. Some penalty points have already been issued, and at the moment, I think Gordon Ramsay in 7th at the moment has got the most to his name. 9 penalty points at the moment as Lee Holmes goes purple in sector 1. Bruno Heinrich, who's got 6 penalty points to his name, has got purple in sector number 2. Very fast-flowing circuit here, Dan, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I like it, really. It's a difficult one to get the hang of, really, especially here this up and down, but I do have to say, though, Alex, they removed the oak tree, and it's what I understand why they did it. You don't want to have a tree standing in the middle of a circuit. Of course you don't. It's of course a safety hazard, but oh man, did it make that corner? Of course, the legendary name still of that corner, oak tree. For the people that didn't know, there was an oak tree on the inside of that corner, but of course safety precautions did take place, and well, that oak tree was removed sadly, but yeah. You know, it is what it is. That corner is still as tricky as ever, because braking and turning at the same time, especially the corner before, it's never easy, especially in cars that do not have ABS.
Yeah, Bruno Heinrich about to cross the line once again, currently sitting in 11th position. Emil Gubmans goes top of the timesheets with a 1 minute 47.778, and then Bruno Heinrich goes in 20 thousandths quicker. At the moment, in the AM classification, it's Jungor Val, followed by Jordan Strudwick, and then Noah Vence. Adam Morrow now makes his way up into 7th position, 4th in the pro class. As Corey Lazarus goes purple in the number 85, currently sitting in 19th at the moment, but has made a personal improvement over sectors 1, 2, 5, and going the fastest out of anybody in sector number 4, but that has just been bested. As we go to Igor Koz, and the 285 has got to make some headway now as Heinrich goes to within 3/100ths of Corey Lazarus, who's now got the fastest lap time on the sheets, 1 minute 47.739. And of course on cue it's hammer time, because Philip Hammer in the number 60 has set personal best and gone fastest in sector number 4, and he has gone top of the timesheets. What a lap from the defending champion, 1 minute 46.954. Igor Koz has just beaten him, 1 minute 46.897. Ding ding, ring the dinner bell. It's game on for pole here at VIR.
From Igor Koz, what a lap. And I have to say, we might well see a quicker lap, but that is definitely at least a lap that deserves to be within the top 5, because it's a lap that in practice I haven't seen anyone do yet, or at least not consistently, and it seems like Igor Koz is going to be able to do it. He's purple again though in sector 1. Someone who's purple too is Vince Peters.
Yep, it is about just making sure those laps count, and it will be a standing start like we had at Brands Hatch a little bit earlier on. Vince Peters, oh my goodness, he really is firing warning shots, isn't he? He's the number 45, at 1 minute 46.562, 3.3 tenths ahead of Koz. Then it's a further 56 thousandths back to Philip Hammer. Emil Koopmans has rounded out the top 4. Spencer Marsh is currently leading the way in the AM classification, and he's only, is that, a second off of Vince Peters' absolutely howitzing lap, as Lazarus now gets himself back up into 4th position. The gaps are getting closer and closer. That was 1 minute 47.090 for Lazarus in the number 85. There is Spencer Marsh in the number 34. And he at the moment, but Igor Koz is on the move as well. He's really improved. So has Patrick Hinkston. Igor Koz has gone purple in sectors 1, 2 and 5. What's he going to bring to the party? Because he goes across the line very shortly. Goes P2, 88 thousandths behind Peters. Well, we know for a fact that over the next 7 minutes and 50 seconds, a lot of the drivers are getting their lap times out of the way early. Torsten Seifert has just gone up into 8th on a 147.566. And Igor Koz, I think, has called time on his qualifying. Patrick Hinkston has just had an off track. So is Yori Steinmetz. Steinmetz currently sitting in 12th position, as there is Torsten Seifert in the number 76 WS Racing Esports Porsche. He's hoping for a better time out, as the timesheets, they are a-changing.
Definitely, and well, the pole sitter in the AM class at the moment, Jordan Strotwick, also not doing bad, and 7th overall for an AM driver, qualifying in the top 10, I think, already is a great result. Now, the first 3 rounds of this championship, we are more likely to see an AM maybe win overall. Seifert goes off track, and that's going to be his qualifying. Then you do have to keep in mind, though, that the drivers will only get about 4 laps here, as Corey Lazarus is going to come across the line again to maybe improve. He needs about 5 tenths. Is he going to get it? No, he's not. Improves his time, but not his position of 147.044. You do have to keep in mind, only 4 laps for the drivers here this evening. And on a track as tricky as this one, you want to get a good lap in early, and I think that was exactly what Vince Peters did, because he's only now on his last lap.
Yep, some drivers yet to actually set a lap time. Holger Miefert being one of them. Afonso Salto, Michael McLeod and Mark Oliver yet to set a lap time, so we're looking north of about 35 cars on the combined Pro and AM grids. But still, the closest people that have been to Vince Peters' lap time of a 1 minute 46.562, Igor Koz. As we see another change, that Samuel Sproul gets a good lap time in there, a 147.159. That locks out the top 7 to the pro classified drivers. Jordan Strudwick currently leading the way for AM class pole. And he's got a few drivers between himself and those just outside of the top 10. But Jungle Val now changes that as he goes P10 on that particular effort, a 1 minute 47.26. And then we look a little bit further down. So, yeah, it's all changing because Daniel Thomas has just gone 4th. And he still has a lap in hand. So if he further improves, now look at the gaps, less than a tenth separating first to second to third to fourth respectively. If Daniel Thomas finds another 2, maybe if he finds over 3 tenths, he will grab pole. But he's got about 75% of the lap to go. He's got to nail it perfectly. If he doesn't do that, then Baiters will secure pole for this particular round of the championship. For those wondering about the format, it will be a case of a 15-minute sprint race, and then afterwards we'll have a 30-minute feature race where the top 8 finishers will be reversed on the grid. So no secondary qualifying required in the P Cup Challenge.
Just want to mention, Philip Hammer is over his lap. I don't think this lap's going to count anyways. He's already, this is his 5th lap, so I don't think this lap's going to count, is it? We're going to see it. It is going to count. Sorry for that. I thought Philip Hammer had already done his laps, but it seems like at the moment, driver's able to go longer.
I think in some respects, I mean, Vince Peters, I did see, had done just north of about 3.9 laps. So the thing is that would have been, you know, you're looking at probably 5 combined laps, not including an outlap maybe. So Vince Peters, by deciding to cut back in before he thought, well, I'm going to do a cool down lap and then I'm going to go out there and I'm going to push it again. So it's given him another opportunity for qualification. As Daniel Thomas, I thought he might, he's found over half a second. My goodness, 1 minute 46.328. Daniel Thomas, provisionally with just under 3.5 minutes to go, has secured provisional pole, but Vince Peters has gone purple in sectors 1 and 2. I don't think it's going to be too much longer before we find out how close or how much further ahead. Vince Peters having 2 middle difficult sectors, not improving on the pair of them, but it depends on how much the delta is. He's wrestling with that steering wheel going through into the final part of the circuit. He's heading into the hog pen here at turn 16B and turn 17 because he's really got to line it up nicely. Over the crest he goes. Vince Peters improves and does a personal best in sector number 5. Is it going to be enough to secure pole from Daniel Thomas? He crosses the line. And he does. He does by nearly a 1/10 of a second. 1 minute 46.235. Vince Peters has really thrown that warning shot across the bow. Samuel Sproul is about to cross the line now. He's currently 9th at the moment, and he goes to 6th on a 1 minute 47.012. Still some times yet to be set. Michael McLeod, who we're with at the moment, liking a little bit of the BWT pink in that livery. Once again, it's just great to see the different liveries that we see in sim racing on a regular basis. Now, he's coming down the back straightaway, so down from Oak Tree, down through the back straight, heading into the roller coaster complex at turns 13, 14, and 15. So these cars will be carrying a lot of speed, but then with this adverse camber through certain parts of the circuit itself, especially through here, turn 14, you've got to carry the momentum through, but also nail the throttle correctly down through into what will be the final part of the circuit. He's got to get it right coming out of turn number 17, and he's going to go across the line. He's improved in sectors 2, 4, 5. Will it be improvement in sector number 6 to bring him out of the top 20? It does, and it puts him 15th. Well, that was a pretty good lap there from Michael McLeod from Canada in the KY Jellyfish. That is such a dodgy team name if ever I heard one.
Well, now I do know that there are some some hidden gems in the team names as Michael improves in Sector 1. Again, I don't think, however, he's going to be able to improve on his lap. He might well be cut off here because qualifying time ends. If that is not the case, we could well see Michael jump up a couple further positions. He only needs about 2/10 really to go up to into P11, maybe P10 overall, which would be a good result. Pole sitter in the AM class, Salvatore, with a good lap time. Guriento is, of course, his second name, Salvatore Guriento, in 7th overall. And in the pole position of the AM class, let's see, Michael improving in Sector 1, 2, and 3. So at the moment, a good lap time for him, it seems like, Alex, but is he going to be able to finish it?
Well, the timer is about to hit 0 for the 15-minute open qualifying session as Michael McLeod makes his way down the final part of the back straight into the roller coaster. And, oh, he was on for a good lap, but, yep, qualifying concluded. And what does that mean, folks? It means we have the following drivers on the following positions for the grid. It's Vince Peters and Daniel Thomas on the front row. Patrick Hingston and Igor Kols, row 2. Philip Hammer and Samuel Sprout, row 3. Salvatore Guariento and Lars Vetsi, row 4, with Corey Lazarus and Jordan Strudwick rounding out the top 10. Guariento on AM pole position. Emil Gudmans and Django Val round out the top 12, followed by Danny Hugendorn and Lee Holmes. Michael McLeod could have gotten up into the top 10, has to start from 15th, and we'll have Torsten Seifert alongside. Bruno Heinrich, Spencer Marsh, Ewan Bremner and Jori Steinmetz round out the top 20. Leventi Kirali and Niall Killen round out row 11 ahead of Adam Morrow, Gordon Ramsay, Alexander Vilfert, Bjorn Ritter, Glenn Humberstone, Alexander Redhead, Noah Vance and Stephen Eckenrode that round out the top 30. Completing the 36-strong grid will be Kenny Eckert, Misha Berger, Baron De Bello, Holger Meifert, Afonso Salto and Mark Oliver. 15 minutes is the sprint race. And what we will find is that, and a very good evening to Biggles and Zach Sweeney, along with everybody else in the chat at the moment. Thank you very much for joining us as we are waiting for the remainder of the grid to ready up. And a few cars due to start on the grid. Philip Hammer yet to join, Michael McLeod yet to join. Just a few more cars to go, and then the red lights will be on the starting gantry. There is your pole sitter for round 2 of the season. Vince Peters in the number 45. He's got Daniel Thomas to nigh on his immediate left-hand side. And what we will have is once again, it's going to be an easier start for these drivers, unlike Brands Hatch, where it was at a right-hand adverse camber. But a straight line, no camber to speak of, but it's going to be the run down to the horseshoe that's going to change things. Right, lights are about to get set on the gantry. Here we go, the 5 lights ignite, they are out, we're under starters orders, we are off and racing. Good start by Peters. Philip Hammer already gets the launch on Igor Koz, who also manages to lose a few positions, drops down to 8th position as Daniel Thomas going through into the horseshoe, looking around the outside. Patrick Hingston looking to the inside of the 160. Through turn number 1 as they make their way through into turns 2 and 3. Hingston's through on Thomas up to 2nd position as they make their way through into NASCAR bend and into left hook. Philip Hammer looking to get the power down early. Guariento up into 5th ahead of Lars Vetsi. They both made up 2 places in the meantime. Strudwick is in 7th, having jumped from 10th to that place. And there is Django Val, who's dropped 3 positions from 12th to 15th. But everyone's trying to make their way through here at VIR for the opening lap for 15 minutes. But great start from Peters, but even better for the likes of Hingston, Thomas and Hammer. Guariento up 2 places, up to 5th at the moment. Ewan Bremner's made up 3 places at the moment. Gordon Ramsay's gone up from 24th to 20th as Guariento and Vetsi have just swapped places. They've done that again as we see a move around the outside. The 686, that's Jungle Val. That was Ewan Bremner trying to get round the outside of him. Going through turn 12 as onto the long back straight they go. And this is the perfect opportunity for overtaking and slipstreaming here.
Well, he's going to go to the inside is Lars. And he's going to make this one stick. The 771 can't make the pass stick on Salvatore, who's now up into P6. Or P5, I wanted to say, but it's gone down to P6. It is now drop back into the clutches of Strudwick. This is for the lead in the AM class. A touch between the two. was Samuel Sproul on Strotwick, maybe telling him to get a move on, because Samuel Sproul, of course, wants to make those moves forward. Two AM drivers in between him, of course, holding him back on Lars Watzig from the Pro class in P5.
Mark Oliver looks to have had drama. He was running up towards the lower part of the top 25, and there is a little bit of desperation starting to creep in with a couple of drivers at the back end of the field. Jordan Strudwick now gets past Guariento, who also gets passed by Samuel Sproul in the 66. Guariento is losing places hand over fist as the 210 now drops down to 9th position. Vince Peters at the moment has a comfortable 1.3 second advantage over Daniel Thomas. Patrick Hingston now in 3rd place. Philip Hammer trying to close on in on the number 93, and there is a train, a big train, at the back of which is Michael McLeod, who had in front of him Torsten Seifert and Bruno Heinrich. That is the battle for 12th position, and there's been a massive drama. Heinrich is off. Heinrich is off big time, and luckily enough he saved it. Lights up the rear tyres to try and get that car back out on the circuit. Afonso Salto has also got off circuit as the 228 managed to make up 6 places. He was a little bit further up than that, but Bruno Heinrich not having a good turn at the moment. He's got the likes of Holger Miefeld and all that behind him as we go on board with Bruno Heinrich. Now this was through the twistier part of the circuit. He's going to get a touch. He got a touch, and that was by one of the WS Racing Esports cars, which has gone literally straight on, is hard on the brakes, trying to stop itself from shortcutting the circuit. And that was Torsten Seifert, I believe, and there's Afonso Salto that went through just then. But at the moment, Vince Peters has got a comfortable gap. He's ahead of Daniel Thomas, and not only in time qualifying has Vince Peters been electric. Free practice leading up to this event. I mean, the Dutchman's quite clearly flying right now.
Well, he's doing a great job out there in front. Of course, a little bit further back, there are battles almost everywhere. You don't really know where you will have to look. And so much battles going on in the mid-pack. So sorry, of course, if we're missing your battles, if you're watching this back. But so much going on at the moment. One of those battles is, of course, Igor Kos and Emil Koopmans. It's Igor Kos, of course, who's going to try and make that move for P7 in the Pro Class, P8 overall. Strutwick, though, Alex, has got a bit of a gap now back to Salvatore Guariento.
Yeah. 3 positions separating the two. Jordan Strudwick doing a great job in the number 100 entry. Currently running P6 overall. Samuel Sproul trying to chase him down. But good work by, as Michael McLeod's just hit drama. He's just been off track. So is Niall Killen. Michael McLeod has been off. I'm not too sure if that car might have sustained damage. Doesn't look like anything on, well, it looks like the front bumper has been slightly indented. But he gets back underway. That was such a shame. I mean, he was running close to the top 10 at one point after the contact between Seifert and also, who was it? It was the 77 of Bruno Heinrich, as we ride on board on the front roof cam with Igor Koz for the FTR Esports crew. FTR Esports also compete in the Sim 3D GT series as well, which is soon to have its penultimate round of the championship. I think coming up in the next, I think in 2 weeks' time. But Emil Koopmans trying to go defensive. Igor Koz looking up the inside, through into the horseshoe. Is he going to get the job done? He is. That's a nice clean pass from the 285 as Cody Lazarus gets through on Corey Lazarus gets on up the inside of Salvatore Guariento, who now has dropped all the way down to 11th position. Ewan Bremner also trying to get through. He's battling away with the likes of Niall Killen. As there is Danny Hugendorn, who has had an off track and has dropped down to 27th position. Looks like Afonso Salto is in the pits for a very, very long time already. 2.5 minutes of this race, and the 228 is still stationary in there. So we still have at the moment, we have two retirements. Torsten Seifert and Mark Oliver out after a couple of laps. Gordon Ramsay has now decided to jump into the pits. Stephen Eckenrode is also has just had an off track as well. He's currently sitting in 30th position, but we now concentrate our look onto the battle between Holmes, that's Lee Holmes and Django Val. Now this is a a battle for overall position, but more importantly, Django Val is trying to get away from Leventi Kilari in the 406, who has made up 7 positions. Biggest movers of the night so far. Misha Berger up from 32nd to 19th. Glenn Humberstone up from 27th to 15th. Noah Vents is battling away with Yori Steinmetz at the moment. And Noah Vents has made, is that going to be position number 13? Not quite, well, position number 11. Not quite. Well, it is 11. It was 12 at one point, but Misha Berger is closing in on them, and he could make up 2 places very, very quickly. Halfway through the 15-minute timer has been elapsed, and now we've got another 50% still to go. But Vince Peters at the moment here, Dan, is controlling things ever so nicely.
The gap at the moment growing to almost 2 seconds. At the front of the field, of course, talking about a pole position next time round, because we've now gone over the halfway point. At the moment, it is Igor Kos on the pole position for the reverse grid feature race. The top 8 will be reversed, and Igor Kos, like I just said, is the man on pole position for that one at the moment. And like we've pointed out so many times already, the AM's not doing too badly here. Jordan Strutwick at the moment in P6 overall as an AM driver. I think we said top 10 at the beginning of qualifying is already a very respectable position for an AM driver. A top 6 definitely very much is.
Yeah, riding on board with Lee Holmes, who's still got Django Val about 4/10 of a second behind him. These two battling over 12th position, as now we go on board back with Danny Hugendorn, who's got Spencer Marsh. But not been a good one for the number 34, as he has lost quite a few positions. Started 18th on the grid, now finds himself down in 26th. There has been a couple other positional changes up and down the order, but this long back straightaway, 910 metres, really allow the drivers to stretch the legs on these flat 6 turbocharged engines, which produce best part of north of 500 horsepower. And Vince Peters again just comfortably putting in the quali style laps. He's been running in the 1 minute 46.7s and 8s, so the consistency from Peters has allowed him to really control the proceedings at the moment on this opening race out of 2 here tonight, as Danny Hugendorn tries to get the run down the start-finish straight on Spencer Marsh, as he's going to be right in the wheel tracks. Hugendorn 2 wheels on the grass on the right-hand side of the start-finish straight, looking down in towards turn 1 at the horseshoe. That's a bit of a brave move there, Danny, trying to go around the outside, and he has to take avoiding action, because I think there was an incident just in front. There's a cloud of smoke just going through the horseshoe, and Danny Hugendorn, I think, did himself the best of favours there, just by keeping out of harm's way. Have a look at a replay now. Now, this is from Bjorn Ritter in the 941 WS Racing Esports car onto the grass, and that's going to be, oh, that's hard into the barriers on the left-hand side.
Yeah, and that might well be a race-ending shot for him. Look at that car. That car is not looking good. The front left tyre seems to have a lot more camber than it should have at the moment. So does the left rear tyre. So that's not, well, a good part of the race, excuse me, for him. Well, he's still driving around at the moment, it seems like. However, not with a car that I think is capable of putting in the lap times that Vince Peters is putting in. I don't know if actually any car on track is able to put the lap times in that Vince is putting in, because it seems like that gap at the front of the field ever growing, Alex.
Yeah, it's all about what happens behind, because you've got Daniel Thomas in 2nd, Patrick Hingston in 3rd, and Philip Hammer in 4th place, and the gap between the trio at the moment is less than 1.4 seconds. There is Spencer Marsh trying to close in on Kenny Eckert and Niall Killen. That's the battle for 23rd position, as they are making their way through out of the roller coaster section into Hogpen. And Spencer Marsh, the Canadian in the number 34, just trying to do his level best to try and gain a couple more points on the board. As at the moment, just seeing that Misha Berger now is up into 19th position, so he's into the top 20, the highest mover in terms of the positions gained over the course of this race. Just under 3.5 minutes to go. Vince Peters extends his lead to 2.5 seconds. And now Philip Hammer has just put in a personal best. Folks, you know what that means. It's hammer time. he's definitely going to be charging at the 2 in front of him, because he is 7/10 away from Patrick Hingston and took a whopping 5.5 of a second out of him. Here's Adam Morrow in the 568 looking up the inside. That's the 193 of Niall Killin. And just has a moment, he keeps it out of the barriers, but that is not how you want to that's not how you want to rejoin the circuit, bumping over the grass, because there's a camber to the left. It unsettles the rear suspension and spun Morrow round on a sixpence. Back on board with Spencer Marsh. Now into the oak tree, and a big thank you to Phil Robin Hood Sim Racing Team. The tree was removed because it was struck by lightning, but they could have planted a sapling from the tree a little bit further back. Nice little bit of the information there, I have to say. A big thank you. So, you know, you learn something new every day. Learn something new every day. But we still continue to ride back on board, and you can see the lap times now. Philip Hammer on that last lap was over a second quicker than Daniel Thomas, who's lost out second position to Patrick Hingston. And when you think about this, there's no Nicholas Nolder here tonight. He was one of the chargers last time out, took a win, and I think if I remember correctly, took second in the feature race last week at Brands Hatch. So this is going to mean that Philip Hammer is going to now have a lead in the championship, and fourth place is not a bad way to start your evening, and especially when the fact is you can have 3 drop rounds in this 12-round calendar. And Philip Hammer is trying to make it count early and start to build a comfortable gap at the lead of the overall standings. Jordan Strudwick, in the meantime, has been closing in. He took over 3 and a bit tenths of a second out of Lars Vettig. Now, this might be not the battle for their respective classes, but what's more, Jordan Strudwick is gunning for 5th overall with a minute and change on the clock.
Well, where is he going to make this move? Jordan Strudwick could well move up to P5 overall, like you said, and well, like we said so many times, not bad for Jordan Strudwick, of course. Still qualified in the AM class, but the first 3 races will determine where you will be for the rest of the season. And I think, Alex, looking at the performance that he's putting in, he's definitely worthy of a pro seat.
Very much the case. I 100% agree with you there, Dan, because now our race leader is on the final lap. Lap 9 out of 9. Vince Peters now has a 4.4 second, maybe make that 4.5 second advantage over Patrick Hingston. As now Daniel Thomas and Philip Hammer are closing in on the number 93. It's about half a second that covers that trio. And there is Thomas, there is Hingston, there is Philip Hammer. It's going to be all down to the wire, and I think it's going to be the back straight that could be the deciding factor. We're going to a brief instant replay. This is Stephen Eckenrode, who he just loses the back end, and that was going through turn 3 at NASCAR. He managed to catch it though, well held, and nice little rejoin. But we head back to this battle for second position. Thomas is really chomping at the bit. Philip Hammer is staying back, and I think that's very good strategy from the defending champion, but he'll want to start getting a little bit of a headway into turns 11 and 12 here at Oak Tree. And now it's going to be pedal to the metal, light up the rear tyres, keep it straight, keep it pinned, and go for it. But Vince Peters, in the meantime, has lost a bag full of time, might have had a slowdown penalty. He's 1.6 seconds, make that 1.5 seconds ahead of Patrick Hingston. Now, Vince Peters, if he crosses the line in first, he's going to be a very, very lucky boy indeed as they head through into roller coaster for the final time. Gap now down to the leader is about 1.3 seconds. Hingston's going to try and close that gap, but it's going to be one more corner out of Hogpen and down onto the front straightaway. It's going to be 3 different winners from 3 different races because the checkered will be out this time. Vince Peters from pole position has not looked back, and he takes the checkered by 9 tenths ahead of Patrick Hingston, Daniel Thomas and Philip Hammer. And Jordan Strudwick wins the AM class and takes 5th ahead of Lars Vettig.
Well, what a race that was. Action throughout the whole race and through the whole field basically, Alex. And well, if that is telling us anything for a reversed grid race, I think that especially for a reverse grid, it's going to make things even more exciting. And of course, with the race that we've just had, I don't know if there's a more exciting race up ahead of us, because that was chaos. That was the good kind of chaos.
Yeah, we did have a few casualties along the way. Unfortunately, after the opening couple of laps, we lost Afonso Salto, Mark Oliver, and Thorsten Seifert. Seifert really needs to have a bit of a resurgence in race 2. I think Gordon Ramsay also retired after nearly 4 laps. But Vince Pater is doing a fantastic job, despite what I suspect was a slowdown penalty for the number 45, because that gap was 4.5 seconds, and then he lost nearly all of it in the last lap, which might have just been an uncharacteristic mistake from Vince. But nevertheless, he got across the line first, and that means that's 25 points on the board. Byron DeBello will be the last driver to cross the line in the 00 and take 32nd. But Vince Patrus takes the win. 3 different winners in the Pro class. I think it might be 3 different winners in the AM class as well now, with Jordan Strudwick. But there is your overall race results. Vince Patrus winning by 9/10 ahead of Patrick Hinkston. Daniel Thomas flying the flag for the mighty nation of Wales ahead of the current defending champion Philip Hammer. Jordan Strudwick taking an AM class win ahead of Lars Vetzi, with Samuel Sproul, Igor Koz, Emil Gubmans, Cory Lazarus running at the top 10. Really hoping that Salvatore Guriento will have a better turnout in race number 2 coming up shortly. Lee Holmes, Django Val, Alexander Wilfert, Jori Steinmetz, Glenn Humberstone, Noah Vence, Bruno Heinrich, Ewan Bremer, and then we've also got Misha Berger running at the top 20. Leventi Kilali finishing in 21st ahead of Alexander Redhead. Danny Hugendorn in the wars. Hopefully he comes back in race 2. Michael McLeod was running in the top 11. Unfortunately, the Canadian would find himself dropping down the order after an off-track excursion, finishing 24th. Adam Morrow, Niall Killen, Spencer Marsh, Bjorn Ritter, Kenny Eckert, Holger Miefert, Stephen Eckenrode, and Byron DeBello being the final driver classified, with Gordon Ramsay, Thorsten Seifert, Afonso Salto, and Mark Oliver out in the early half of the race.
All in all, like I just said, a very, very exciting race. And, well, what can we expect, Alex, really? What can we take from that, well, first sprint race that is going to carry over into the feature?
I think, there's going to be a little... I said this at the beginning of the second race last time, didn't I? It's about the strategy, because a 30-minute sprint race, you've got to really strategize about the tyres. And there's a lot of, it's a different kettle of fish with regards to what we had at Brands Hatch GP last week to what we have now here at VIR. Phil, Robin Hood Sim Racing Team, thanks for watching, buddy. And hope you'll enjoy the rest of the show a little bit later on. I think it's going to be about tyre conservation. You're going to have to worry about that a little bit earlier in the race. You'll probably want to control and be consistent on the pace that you have around this circuit, but sometimes you're going to have that risk versus reward situation, which we could see. However, here is your starting grid. So Igor Koz, finishing 8th in race 1, starts on pole. He's got Samuel Sproul, Lars Vetzig, Jordan Strudwick, Philip Hammer, Daniel Thomas, Patrick Hinkston, Vince Peters, rounding out the top 10, because it's a big grid, Emil Gubmans and Cory Lazarus rounding out the top 10. Everyone starting to grid up ahead of this race. Well, we're going to double it up. We're going to double the stakes, folks, from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. And I think the tyre conservation is going to be the key point here, Dan. You want to make sure that you're consistent on your lap times, but you don't want to have any issues, especially if you have a lap 1 incident.
You want to stay out of trouble. That's what you want to do, especially if you're a driver starting a little bit further back. We're going to go to 5 red lights though, Alex.
So, here we go. 5 lights are on. They're out. We're underway. A bit of wheel spin from around about row 4. Might have been Vince Peters on 7th position as Igor Koz leads the field down into the horseshoe for the opening time. Lars Vetzig gets past Samuel Sproul in the opening exchanges. He was round to the outside. There has been an incident. There has been a big incident. Salvatore Guriento, Lee Holmes, 2 of the casualties in that incident. And guys, the first thing you don't do in a 30-minute sprint race is get caught up. You've got to stay out of trouble. There's more incident. There's a bigger incident, and there's more dramas. Patrick Hingston's off. Alexander Vilfort, Glenn Humberstone, Spencer Marsh. They're all falling off the track. It's like an ice rink out there, even though it's bone dry.
Well, a good start for the rest of the field, though. Some drivers getting caught up in an incident in turn 1. I think also further down the lap as well. So far, though, we have an AM driver on the podium in the name of Jordan Strutwick. So he's doing really well in the AM class, but there's more drama further on the lap.
Koopmans and Sproul, and I think Koopmans was up on 2 wheels, and they both got into the pits. Oh my Godfathers. We nearly had who was it? Who was it? It was Django Val that was on his roof in race 2. We nearly had that for for Samuel Sproul. He was 2 wheels in the air after being collected, I think, by Emil's Koopmans, but Igor Koz is leading the way. He's about half a second up from Lars Vetzig. Jordan Strudwick now up into what is 3rd place overall. Noah Vence is battling away with Bruno Heinrich for 11th position. Danny Hugendorn has been one of the biggest profiteers so far. He's up from 23rd to 10th. Gordon Ramsay, the person with the most penalty points this season after 2 opening races, up from 33rd to, get this, 17th.
Wow. Just wow, basically. I mean, how do you pick your way through that field? I mean, action happening all across the field at the start, and you know, it's difficult to sometimes find your way through that. Sometimes you get caught up in an incident that isn't really your fault. But well, he did really well to find his way through there, keep us cool, and well, it has paid off.
Yeah, some people have been a bit more fortunate than others, let's say, as they make their way down through in towards turn 7, 8, 8B, 9, and then into South Bend. They go up the incline and over the crest, down the dip, and then into turns 11 and 12 here at Oak Tree, and then onto the long back straightaway. But at the moment, Igor Koz is running the 154.4s. Lars Vetzig was half a second slower in the previous lap. There's Danny Hugendorn, who's just ahead by a fraction ahead of Bruno Heinrich. And there could be an attempted move here, but that was Django Val being pressurised by Jori Steinmetz, and Hugendorn makes a little bit of an error going through into turn 14. So Hugendorn and Heinrich right on his case at the moment, through into the final part of the circuit here at Hogpen. It looks like Danny Hugendorn is definitely making up for what happened in race number 1. We are only close to 4 minutes out of this 30 minutes completed. It feels like we've done half distance already, but Hugendorn looking to go into turn 1, but Heinrich looking through into the horseshoe here at turn number 1, and he gets through. Hugendorn makes it through, I think, on Jori Steinmetz. He did, because Steinmetz was way too wide. Might have outbraked himself as Hugendorn's off, and he's taken out. Hugendorn's off, and that was because Steinmetz went into him, but I'm not too sure if Steinmetz actually clobbered into the back of Hugendorn by having an assist. And Hugendorn, unfortunately, is straight into, he's hit the return to garage, and he's in pit lane. That is a real shame for Danny Hugendorn, who was making up so many places, and as a result of that, Gordon Ramsay, he's really been keeping his nose clean at the moment. We're going to have a look at an instant replay. Now this is on board with Danny Hugendorn, so he's gone round the outside of Steinmetz. Steinmetz lost it under braking, and Hugendorn's had nowhere to go. The car's back ends hit the barriers, and Hugendorn has been in the pits now for just 45 seconds. That was a real shame, as Niall Killen now drops down a position or two. He's just had an off track. It's Daniel Thomas. Looking up the inside of Vince Peters, there is contact between the pair. Peters saves it, and Corey Lazarus is right with the number 45. And Vince Peters, just a moment ago, had set the fastest lap of the race.
Well, that's exciting. Of course, the winner from last race, comfortably winner, if he didn't get that slowdown. Contact, and well, he's dropped back down into P6. Was going to go for a move around the outside of a very tricky corner, though. That's not a corner where you want to put yourself on the outside. Let's be honest about that, Alex. Maybe not the smartest decision from Vince Peters, but hey, you try and tell a racing driver not to go for a move. I don't think it's going to be happening, is it, Alex?
In the words of Ayrton Senna, if you don't go for a gap, you're not a racing driver. There we go. That's proof personified, and Vince Peters just proved it. It didn't quite work out, but you never know that it could work out at some other point on the circuit, especially when you have an opportunity to do so. But Vince Peters has now already gotten that incident swept under the carpet, so to speak, and now he's just really trying to chase down Daniel Thomas, side by side between Heinrich and Django Wahl. Now this is going to be into turn number 10 very shortly. Heinrich kept it pinned round the outside of turn 9, and the German is through from Gericke Motorsport, gets through on Django Wahl for 9th position. Heinrich just had Django Wahl's number right there and then, 686. Still currently sitting second in the AM classification, but now we have no events in front of us. Ewan Bremer just behind him. It's been a good one for the Platinum driver this time around, hasn't it?
Yeah, he's been consistent, and he's finished both races, I think, in the top 5 so far. He's going to go for another move here. He's going to complete it on the inside this time round. And it seems like he's already got past before they get to the apex of the corner. Can take his normal line through right now. However, he's got past, has Ewan Bremer, but no one went behind him. He's going to try and mount an attack on the end of the front stretch again, I think.
Yeah, the front stretch, not exactly, you know, you will get some slipstream, but you've got some inclines and descents to deal with as they go down across the start-finish line. Once again, we're on to lap number 5 as the Hungarian Levente Kirali trying to keep ahead of Adam Morrow in the number 568 Porsche, who's currently sitting in 13th position. Not too far behind them, the biggest mover of the night, Gordon Ramsay, in the number 22, now running in a genuine 14th position. He's got Misha Berger not too far behind him. And there's Stephen Eckenrode trying to get through, I think, or was that? No, that's the 35. Lee Holmes round the outside at turn 5, and Lee Holmes made that work. Brilliant.
Wow, that's not a move you see all day, is it, Alex? And a great move there from Lee Holmes. That gets himself up into P10 overall. And, well, he's doing well. Sorry, P10 in the Pro class, P15 overall, of course. And he can now chase down Gordon Ramsay ahead of him, of course. Gordon Ramsay doing well to keep himself clean and out of any trouble as Mr. Berger goes a bit deep into Oak Tree. And that, you can see, has lost him a chunk of time.
Yeah, just goes to show that sometimes your strategy might be on point and you might think it's working, and then there's always one step you slightly trip over. But now we go into this battle here. This is for 5th on the road. Vince Peters has been pushing like he was in qualifying. He's put in the fastest lap of the race so far, 1 minute 46.62. He's got Wales's Daniel Thomas closing in on him at the moment. Vince Peters started in 8th place. He's 4.4 seconds away from Igor Koz, but now right in front, that is Jordan Strudwick, the current AM class leader, who's looking to make it 2 for 2 tonight. He won the sprint race, finishing in 5th overall earlier on tonight, and he's got a lot of serious talent behind him. And what this is also allowing, with the fact that Vince Peters and Daniel Thomas are behind Jordan Strudwick. Strudwick, I think here, Dan, is the cork in the bottle, because Corey Lazarus is closing in on them. He's about 1.1 seconds. Bruno Heinrich isn't too far from that either.
Oh, look at that.
Moment there, that was well anticipated from Salvatore Guriento. That was Stephen Eckenrode from the US that had that massive drama there and lost out to Guariento at that particular juncture. Just goes to show, one slight slip up here at VIR is going to be incredibly detrimental to your race strategy, but also to your pace. Igor Koz now is starting to try and pull a gap because Philip Hammer is in second position now. He's 2.4 seconds behind the current race leader, and Philip Hammer, I know for a fact, will want to open a winning account. The good thing is he's got some time on his side here. He's got about 19 and a quarter minutes still to go until the checkered. And if Philip Hammer starts closing in on Igor Koz, then I've got a feeling that Igor Koz will have reason to be worried. But at the moment, Igor Koz is making sure that gap is quite wide, quite lengthy, and it was 2.5 seconds. But when they crossed the line, it's now just south of 2.5 seconds. So Igor Koz on the last lap was nearly 3/10 quicker than Philip Hammer, and it seems like being on pole position at the circuit here at VIR is very, very crucial indeed, and that's how Vince Peters was able to control the race. That's exactly what Igor Koz is doing right now.
Well, also Vince Peters has got past, of course, Jordan Strutwick. Daniel Thomas has also got past. He can now, together with Vince Peters, maybe chase down Lars Wutzig ahead of him. Of course, that podium still looking very likely for Vince Peters. Of course, 2/10 he's now behind Lars Wutzig. That gap, Alex, has come down significantly this lap. I did not expect it to come down this quickly.
He took 1.6 seconds out of Lars Vetzik on the previous lap. That is insane. 1 minute 48.2 from Lars Vetzik, 1 minute 46.8. And now Peters is down the back straightaway. He's going to get the run down towards turn 13. He's got past. Peters, the Belgian, now up into third position, and now he's going to hunt for Hammer.
Can he get him though? Is he maybe a bit too far away? We know that Hammer is quick, so seems Igor Koz at the moment, because Hammer not able to really gain time on Igor Koz at the front of the field. Can Vince Peters do that though? He's now been unleashed to show his full potential in this race. 4.1 seconds is what it starts on this lap. We will keep an eye on the lap times between those two drivers. What I'm really interested in is really the pace to our leader Igor Koz.
Well, Vince Peters last time around was about 1/10 and a bit quicker. So if Peters gets past Hammer, he's 1.2 seconds behind the current reigning defending overall champion from season 3. Peters gets a move on. He then will have a bit of clean air. And it seems like these Porsches have a good run. Stephen Eckenrode, who we're now going to see in a replay, going into left out. Oh, Stuttgart sideways from the American, and he manages to hold onto the brakes, keeps it out of the wall, lights up the right rear in the meantime whilst rejoining. Quite a few drivers. Looks like we've lost Jori Steinmetz, Danny Hugendorn, Michael McLeod. They've both been in the pits for quite an amount of time. Samuel Sproul out. Patrick Hingston, Emil Koopmans, Bjorn Ritter, Holger Miefer, all out. Afonso Salto, Torsten Seifert and Mark Oliver, I don't think took the start. But with 16 minutes to go, Vince Peters is closing in on Philip Hammer, and I'm sure that Hammer will know how much closer he's going to be, because they're going down the back straightaway once again, in towards turns 13, 14 and 15. There's Ewan Bremer for Platinum Racing, the Dutchman in 10th position, currently P3 in the AM classification, but more importantly, a top 10 finish on the cards for the number 36. And he is closing on Django Val. That is going to be the battle for the runner-up position in AM. So game on for that battle too. 1 minute 46.96, fastest lap of the race for Igor Koz. Vince Peters goes 3.5 tenths of a second quicker and is now gaining rapidly. He took nearly 6 tenths out of Philip Hammer, who is just trying to make sure he gets the podium at the end of it all. Very different situation to what we saw between Hammer, Nolde and Aidan Young last time out. And we wish Aidan all the best of luck in his IRL racing adventures this weekend, as we both had a nice little chat with him after the second race where he was defending like a good one at Brands Hatch for the feature race. But Philip Hammer knows it's not going to be a case of if, it's going to be a case of when Vince Peters decides to pull the trigger and get on past the defending champion.
Is he going to get past the defending champion though? Because the pace is not significantly quicker. Yes, it was 8 tenths or 6 tenths on the last lap. But is it going to be the same this time around? It seems like Hammer has found some pace too. Maybe he was tire saving before he saw that Vince Peters was coming through. The gap has stayed the same between the two since the start of this lap so far. Now, it could be a good thing for Igor Kos that Philip Hammer is in between him and Vince Peters, because overtaking and fighting someone will always lose you time, and that might well be what Igor Kos needs at the moment, because if he keeps gaining at the rate he was last time round, he is eventually gonna at least catch him.
Yeah, catching's one thing, passing something completely different altogether, but Vince Peters knows that he's got to expedite that move very, very rapidly to not waste any time at all. As they go into the horseshoe a little bit further back, Daniel Thomas up the inside of Lars Vetzig. That is for 4th place. And there is Jordan Strudwick, who's got Corey Lazarus up his inside through into the horseshoe. So Lazarus now, has a tank slapper as well whilst trying to put the power down. No ABS, no traction control in these Porsche 992 Carrera Cup cars, pushing north of about 500 plus horsepower. And now Daniel Thomas has got a fight on his hands, as Lars Vetzig is not letting the 160 from Wales get away. But yeah, Vince Peters, I mean, he was 4 tenths quicker than Philip Hammer on that previous lap. So maybe Peters could be doing a little bit of tyre conservation of his own, and then the minute he sees Hammer make a possible slight error, I think, could give Peters the opportunity to take a run at him, go up the inside, as they're going to go onto the back straight. Philip Hammer has gone off track. Now, has that caused a problem? That gap is coming down. Peters knows he's got to make the move now as they're going to go down the back straight. Peters to the right-hand side of Hammer. He's got through for second. Vince Peters knew that he waited for a mistake. Hammer went off track, and the 45 from Belgium is through.
He's unleashed, and he hasn't lost any time with it. It's crazy how he does it. He even gained time still on Igor Kos, I think, that time round. We're going to see now across the line, but I think Igor Kos is now going to be very nervous about what is behind him, because it's a man who's proven quick here this evening, proven very, very quick. And, well, he's behind him now, 2.8 seconds, and gaining rapidly, even through the traffic. And I think that's a bit worrying for Igor Kos. We're going to see what he's going to be able to do now, unleashed to chase down that lead to get the first double victory of the season. And a Grand Slam, because he also qualified on pole position.
Exactly. And could this be an opportunity also in the mix for Philip Hammer? If he keeps within half a second of Vince Peters, what I can see possibly happening is that Peters and Hammer will be working with each other rather than against each other, as Ewan Bremer now finds himself up into second position in the AM class. He's got past Django Val and he's pulled away ever so slightly. Gap is nearly 7 tenths between the pair as they make their way between turn 6B and turn 7. There is Jordan Strudwick doing a great job. He could be also the first double AM class winner in this 4th season so far, currently sitting in 7th position, and the gap is coming down. It was 0.46 of a second between Peters and Kos on the last lap. The gap now down to just under 2.6 seconds. Lars Vetzig is now closing in once again, and he's got Corey Lazarus, I think, is right with him. Yes, he is. There's the 85, the Blackout Motorsport driver from New Zealand. Once
He's got
again,
a great run.
Yeah. He's just had a massive tank slapper coming out of turn 17. All that hard work for Corey Lazarus has just been undone. He's got to do that all again. There's still 10 minutes of this race to go. But Philip Hammer has just set a personal best. Igor Kos has now responded. I'm not too sure what happened to Vince Peters, because that gap between first and second went up briefly by 0.3 of a second itself. And Dad Time Racing saying, Strudwick, if I'm seeing correctly, should be promoted to pro next week. That's exactly what we were both saying here in commentary. So thank you for that, Dad Time Racing. But Corey Lazarus looking to try and get the wind beneath his rear wing again and try and close that gap up to Lars Vetzig, because he could have been on the possible upswing of getting 4th.
Well, there we go. Those are the 3 drivers at the moment in the closest fights on track. A little bit further back, it's also a battle for overall position. Overall P12 and 13. This is Lee Holmes together with Noah Wentz, who's fighting for 12th. 4th though in the AM class. If you would be Wentz, would you say, well, nothing really for me to lose here. The only time I can, or the only thing I can lose, is my 4th position in the AM class. I'm going to let you by. I'm going to stick behind you in your slipstream, and I'm going to use you to pull me along, maybe to the driver ahead.
What he does not want is to have Misha Berger, who's actually just back behind them, to get past, because then there are no pro cars between no, well, that will be the case for no events. He'll want to have as many cars between himself and Salvatore Guariento, who is currently sitting in 15th position in the 210 entry. But that gap, oh, the Jaws music is starting to ring in my ears, because with 8 minutes and 10 still to go, Vince Peters went over 0.2 of a second quicker than both Igor Koz and Philip Hammer. So Koz is responding. Hammer is responding to keep with Peters to see if he can probably get on into the top 2 come the end of the race. But with 7 minutes and 50 still to go, it's now going to be a Herculean effort from Vince Peters to try and get one up on Igor Koz. But we have seen it before where Igor Koz was leading, most notably at Brands Hatch last week. He was leading the race at one point and then dropped the ball. Hopefully lightning does not strike twice for the 285. So you can see the gap has come down significantly. It's under 2 seconds, and Lee Holmes has just also passed no events. So no events, but yeah, well, Lee Holmes has been on the move. Adam Morrow has been up, moving up the order as well. Gordon Ramsay currently sitting in 16th, having started 33rd, as there is chopping and changing between well, there was a little change there on the timing. Jungle Val, who's just set a personal best, is trying to close on in on Ewan Bremer once again for that 9th place, and more importantly, that is 2nd in the AM classification. But that gap, Vince Peters is doing a phenomenal job. It's now 1 3/4 seconds, and he's about 9/10 ahead of Philip Hammer. I think Igor Koz, and Vince Peters just pumps in the fastest lap. 1 minute 46.46.
He's on it.
He is on it like a car bonnet. Is the Belgian, that wonderful visceral livery on that Porsche is absolutely charging forward. Koz last time, get this, 3/4 of a second slower. I think Igor Koz, now that he knows that Peters is closing in, could be making slight mistakes here and there, and what that means is that if Peters keeps on the black stuff, has no 1x or 4x penalties that could result in him getting a slowdown, he will be on Koz very, very quickly indeed. Now, with the gap being 1.6 seconds, if he makes that gap up in the next 2 laps, then I think probably a lap or 2 later, he'll go for the race lead.
Now, can he do that? Because it seems like the gap has been stationary for this lap, really, or been static at, what, 1.5, 1.6. Hasn't been really able to get below that. Now, of course, the pressure is on for Igor Koz. If you ever had pressure, now is the time, of course, because Vince Peters, the man who qualified on pole, won the sprint race, is now behind you and is charging basically through the field. Can he react to the fastest lap times that Vince Peters is putting in at the moment? I don't know, a 46.4. Best lap time so far for Igor Koz, a 1:46.88. So that's, well, half a second quicker than Igor Koz has been able to do this lap. Across the line, though, a personal best for Igor Koz, about what, 3/10 maximum gain for Vince Peters this time round. If he's going to keep gaining at this margin, it might well be enough with what Igor Kos is doing at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, at the minute they're running in the 1 minute 46.5s. At the moment, I am seeing that Jungle Val is trying to close on Ewan Bremner as we now see Lazarus closing in on Vetsi, who's got Thomas right in front. This is another exciting, captivating battle with 4 minutes and a quarter still left on the timer. Thomas is still holding on to 4th place. It's 7/10 that cover this trio as they head through in towards turn 9, and then the left-hander at South Bend at turn 10. It's all going to come down to that long back straightaway. But Jungle Val still trying to close on Ewan Bremer. But the number 36 from Platinum Racing still holding on to, more importantly, not just 9th overall, but also 2nd in the AM classification. As we coming down to the last 3.5 minutes, it's all about now how much steely determination and pace that these drivers have. We're going to have an instant replay here. This is Byron De Bello in the 00, and that's going to be into one of the left-handers. He's going to try and accelerate, or right, there's a slight problem. He's pulled to the left-hand side, and he's gone in. Right, he did a return to I think he did a brief return to garage, but he is back out onto the circuit.
He did the same again before, I think. Yeah, he's going to do the same again.
Oh, sorry. Gap's now coming down big time. Vince Peters has got that gap down to 1.2 seconds. 1.2 seconds between Igor Kos and Vince Peters. Peters took 2.5 tenths of a second out on that last lap. And they're about a quarter of the way through this one. So we could possibly have 3 laps to go, including this one, riding on board with the number 45 from Belgium. Gap now down to a second. Kos now realises he's got to put it all on the line and go for it. But Vince Peters has got that gap down. They are, you know what, Vince Peters is going to have a monster slipstream, I think, as long as he tees it up nicely coming out of Oak Tree at turn number 12. The race is getting even more intense as we get down to the final 2 minutes and change into turn 11. The double right here at 11 and 12 as they make their way out of Oak Tree. Gap now down to 6.5 tenths out of that corner. Down this 910 metre long back straight before heading into turns 13, 14 and 15 at Roller Coaster. Peters is on a mission and does not want to be denied. But the way that the time is looking at the moment, there's going to be one more lap to go after this. And as the timer hits 1 minute and 43 seconds, Vince Peters is right with Igor Kos, and Kos has got to fight for it.
Well, he might well do it onto the last lap. Maybe coming out of Oak Tree, or can he do it already? Coming on to the last lap, of course, across start finish. I think the gap coming onto this front stretch is just a little bit too big. However, everyone now across the field setting fastest laps. Ewan Bremer still ahead of Django Valls, of course. They have both been closing up to Jordan Strutwick. The gap has come down to about 3/10 of a second here, Alex. He's going to have a shot.
Yeah, Vince Peters put the fastest lap of the race in on lap number 16. 1 minute 46.35. 1 minute 47.09 for Igor Kos. Kos has led the race right up until this point as we head into the final 50 or so seconds. Out of turn 5A, into the Snake Complex for the final time we go. Aggressive use of the curbing by Vince Peters as they go through in towards turn 7, 8A, 8B, up the incline now through 7, up into 8A, into 8B, now into 9. Then into the left-hander here at South Bend, under braking. Vince Peters looks to be a little bit more measured. Kos goes defensive, sweeps to the left-hand side into Oak Tree for the final time. Peters is close. He now knows this is his opportunity. Out of turn number 12, it's foot to the floor and it's go, go, go. Peters trying to get that slipstream. Is that going to happen? The closing speed is not factoring in quite now, but yes, it is now. Look at this closing speed. Vince Peters, he's going to look to the left into turn number 13. It's side by side between the two leaders. Igor Kos holds on through the mid part of the roller coaster section. A little bit of a touch between the pair. through into turn 15. Convinced Painters get the run out of the 17th and final corner. Not if Igor Koz can say anything about it. It's going to be a run to the line here in the feature race. But Igor Koz is going to hang on after 17 laps. He wins it from pole position by 82 thousandths of a second after a monumental Herculean effort by Vince Peters. My goodness.
What a drive from both of the drivers. Because of course, hanging on after such big pressure coming on to, well, the last lap of the race. 82 thousandths of a second in the end. The gap between P1 and P2. Philip Hammer, though, picks up another podium. Of course, reigning champion in this class hasn't got underway with winning yet. Still has to pick up his first victory. And so far, he's not been able to do that. Has, of course, racked up still 3 podiums, though. So you don't need to win as long as you're just consistent, Alex. But what a drive from both Igor Koz, of course, winning ahead of Vince Peters.
Yeah, so Igor Koz win. It's 2 different winners, but the first double winner of this season is in the AM class, and that is the driver in 8th position, Jordan Strudwick. What a drive from the number 100. Expect him to be bumped up to the pro class for next week's round 3. But Igor Koz doing a fantastic job, knew that he had to react to Peters, did so and defended at exactly the right place at the right time. Vince Peters, close to getting the first pro double of the season, was denied by 82 thousandths at the line. Great consistency again from Philip Hammer. The defending champion is showing that consistency, is building what will now be a championship lead. Here are your official results for race 2, the feature race. Igor Koz winning by the amended margin of 76 thousandths of a second. Philip Hammer rounding out the top 3, ahead of Daniel Thomas, Corey Lazarus and Lars Wetzig. Bruno Heinrich, Jordan Strudwick, our double AM class winner tonight, takes 8th ahead of Ewan Bremer and Django Val, having a great battle, which concluded with the number 36 being ahead of the 686 by just over a 10th. Misha Berger, Noah Vance, Salvatore Guariento, Gordon Ramsay doing a great job, up 18 places to finish 15th after that one. And we had the likes of Alexander Vilfert, Niall Killin, Kenny Eckert, Spencer Marsh, Alexander Redhead rounding out the top 20, Stephen Eckenrode, 21st ahead of Glenn Humberstone, Adam Morrow, Byron DeBello, Levente Kirali, and then we had, and that was one of the first of the multiple drivers that we had in an attrition struck opening salvo in this race. The likes of Yori Steinmetz, Danny Hugendorn, Michael McLeod, Samuel Sproul, Patrick Hingston, Emil Koopmans, Bjorn Ritter and Holger Miefert. No Torsten Seifert, Afonso Salto and Mark Oliver because they didn't take the start of the race. Wow. You know what? So far, Dan, we've had 2 exciting Porsche Cup Challenge races so far. Brands Hatch kicked off the season. There was madness, there was chaos. But here at VIR, we got a real taste of who are going to be those shining lights in the championship after just the opening 2 rounds. Bring on next week.
Well, I'm looking forward to next week, of course. Just a quick little rundown of the calendar, and then we'll end it here. Monza, of course, is the next track we go to. Then it's Zolder, then Spa, then Sebring, Le Mans, Silverstone, Nürburgring combined. Of course, the 24 hours combined circuit, so the Nordschleife included. Suzuka, Magny Course, and Long Beach. All in all, a great calendar. So join us next time for Monza. And, well, looking forward to that one, to be honest, Alex.
Yeah, a big thank you once again to Blackout Electrical Services, based in Brisbane, in Australia, serving southeast Queensland, electricians specialising in commercial and industrial renovations and fit-outs, power systems analysis and switchboard replacements. That's it for Porsche Cup Challenge Europe Round 2 here at VIR. And then next week we head to the Cathedral of Speed. The Temple of Speed. The Cathedral of Speed, most notably, some people might know that as the Circuit Assen in the Netherlands. So we'll be heading to Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, just over 3.6 miles, and that is going to be a titanic battle. Probably more than likely one of the fastest circuits we're going to be racing over the course of this 12-round calendar. A big thank you to everyone that has taken part tonight. A big thank you to everyone that has watched on the official JP Broadcasting Network. On behalf of my good partner in crime, Dan Pepples, who's also been working the cameras, my name's Alex Goldschmidt. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in 7 days' time for round 3 at Monza. But don't forget, the Porsche Cup Challenge Americas Championship will also have their 3rd round next Thursday night. Until then, thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.